When you go down the list of players, I think there's a lot, and you've already mentioned some names. There's a lot of players that have an opportunity before them that they could see more playing time, and I think this happens just about every season. Last season, you saw it mid-season with Xavier Robinson being able to get out there, kind of an under the radar player who went out there and earned a spot and earned some playing time. Are there any players right now during fall camp that you think could be that under the radar player that goes out there and maybe not stealing a starter's position, but going out there and getting significant playing time come fall?
I think the beauty of this, Josh, is that, and this is, it comes with the territory. With a platform comes a degree of power. The more that people like me talk about somebody like Cortland Guillory, for example, the less under the radar that player feels. I could have cited Cortland Guillory a week ago as an under the radar player that I think is going to rise. But at this point, is he really still under the radar? So if we're looking for guys that are still flying under the radar a little bit at this point as fall camp has gotten underway, the first guy that springs to mind for me, and again, I'm even like internally as I say this, wrestling with, is he truly under the radar? But Elijah Thomas is somebody that I don't know if he will get a ton of immediate action when the season starts, just because of how many talented upperclassmen wide receivers there are going to be in the mix for Oklahoma. But Elijah Thomas is the type of guy that, to me, whenever he starts getting opportunities, no matter how sporadic they may be, he's someone that is more than capable of seizing those opportunities and turning them into even more opportunities. So I've long likened Elijah Thomas's potential output in the 2025 campaign, or I guess potential trajectory as a true freshman, to that of Marvin Mims back in 2020, because Marvin Mims didn't necessarily break camp as a guy that was expected to be heavily in the rotation, but his very first collegiate catch was a 58-yard touchdown against Missouri State. He saw pretty minimal snaps in that game, but you make a play like that, obviously you're going to see the field the next week, and he did, and made a couple more plays, and then a couple more the next week, and then by midseason, he was Oklahoma's go-to guy at wide receiver. Now, am I expecting a meteoric rise like that from Elijah Thomas? No, but I certainly think he's the type of guy that can continue to play himself into a gradually increased role as the season goes along. And another guy that I think no longer qualifies as under the radar, but that kind of belongs in that same category in my mind, would be Taylor Wine, the redshirt sophomore defensive end.
Yeah. Those are a couple of names, like you said. So I would still agree with you. I still think I would call both of them under the radar. Elijah Thomas has definitely gotten a lot more attention here as of recent, mainly because maybe guys like yourself reporting on what you're seeing there in practice. I think Elijah Thomas is definitely one that I've kind of mentioned, just because I felt like with the transfers, specifically in the wide receiver room, it felt like, you had Giovanni Gibson got most of the attention. Isaiah Satania got some attention, where Keontes Lewis, to me, feels like, the more that I've watched his tape, that to me feels like a guy that still I haven't heard a whole lot about. Maybe you can speak to that. That just to me feels like an under the radar guy that, who knows, maybe comes out there and has some big plays. Therefore, he gets some more playing time in a single game and ends up having that one breakout game, kind of maybe like what we saw with Hollywood Brown, maybe not to that extent where he ends up taking a starting position, but coming out there and getting much more playing time because of a breakout game. Is that kind of what you feel maybe with a guy like Keontes Lewis?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think he's going to be in the rotation, towards the top of the rotation at wide receiver, when camp breaks and the Sooners start the 2025 season. Like he's left a very strong impression thus far in the fall. And I can remember hearing from a source with authoritative knowledge on the matter back in the spring, reached out to me proactively, said, hey, look, Keontes Lewis, and at the time he was dealing with an injury. His availability was off and on throughout spring. But they said, look, Keontes Lewis, you don't really see it right now because he's dealing with an injury. When fall rolls around and he's healthy, everybody's going to see just how good that guy can be. He's a different type of dude than Giovanni Gibson as a receiver, has his own flavor that he brings to the table, if you will. But He's incredibly gifted. He's incredibly seasoned. He's incredibly polished. This is his 5th year of college football, and he's going to produce for this football team. And so far, everything that we've seen and heard from Keontes Lewis over the first week of fall camp lines up with that prognostication. So I'm excited to see what it looks like. He's a big wide receiver. He plays physical. He's a good route runner. And I think there's going to be a little bit of added motivation for a guy like that with everything he's been through, bouncing from UCLA to Wisconsin to Southern Illinois at the FCS level. Now, this is his last ride. It's his last year of college football. He gets the opportunity to make it count at the University of Oklahoma and give himself the chance to play in the NFL. So what Keontes Lewis does with that opportunity, it's going to be very intriguing to see.